Hello, welcome to the ServiceNow Champion Enablement Summer of Champions. Last month, champions assembled as we brought together ServiceNow heroes from customers, a partner, and from inside ServiceNow. Future in Champion Enablement's Age of Champions with Swapna, John, and Mike. I'm your host, Britt Champeau, Experience and Marketing Manager for Champion Enablement. But that's enough about me. You hear from me all the time. Let's hear from today's guest speakers. Team, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Okay, greetings to all. Hi, my name is Swapna Bogle with Risk Management Solutions from the Bay Area. We are ServiceNow customers from almost 2 years now, and I'm the product service owner here at RMS. We went live with ServiceNow last year in October 2016 against all odds with very great success and high user adoption using a strong communication, training, and stakeholder management strategy. What we do here at RMS is really cool. So we drive the programs with a fully collaboration model with one vision that's shared across the organization for us. And we'll be happy to share more details as we proceed with the conversation today.
Great, thank you, Swapna.
Hi, my name is John Ryan. I'm working with Crossfuse up in Buffalo, New York, and all over the country, and in Canada, and moving into the UK. And we're a gold partner for ServiceNow, and we develop our own IP for ServiceNow. And I'm the Chief Marketing Officer.
Thanks, John.
Cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Hamblin, and I'm a Customer Enablement Manager. I'm actually an employee at ServiceNow. And I assist with a number of things with global support from enablement, which you'll be learning about here as we talk more.
All right, thank you guys. I have so many questions for you today. I hope you're ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with Swapna. So Swapna, you said that you guys do a lot of cool things over there. So anything cool going on right now in your organization?
Oh, yes, absolutely. A lot of things are moving in a great direction. To share some of the details with everyone here. So as I was just sharing a few minutes ago that we went live with ServiceNow at our organization last year in the month of October. And what we did is ServiceNow was rolled out to only one department during that time so that we can prove it out to the organization, how successfully we are by automating our processes and by streamlining how our support team supports the operations there. Given how successful we were, the roadmap was documented and we reached out to our stakeholders to share the plans, and that created a lot of excitement. So let's talk about some of the strategies that we use to introduce ServiceNow to our organization, right? Okay, so when we were going live for one particular department, what we did there is we invited the other stakeholders to share with them what our overall roadmap is, what are the things that we are doing, which created excitement and enthusiasm to say what's possible in their world as well. So what this opened up is the program for the other departments, like the entire internal IT team, facilities, HR, the metrics team, and the other areas too.
That is really exciting. You weren't making it up when you said you're doing cool things over there. I'm excited to ask you more about that, but I'm going to go ahead and jump to John. So as Swapna's talking about this, she's talking about implementations, and as she's considering the future, how would you suggest that we all consider approaching our strategic objectives?
Well, what we're real big on at Crossfuse, and myself in my career, I've dealt with 5 or 6 major enterprise platforms. And what is just as important as what Swapna is doing, which is very important, is to have a longer term vision of what you're trying to do with an elegant platform like ServiceNow. I think that if you relegate yourself to one specific area of the organization from a business unit or service unit standpoint, you're basically not optimizing the opportunity you have with the ServiceNow platform. So I think that along with the transactional and then the shorter term aspects of we need to deploy this and we need adoption, which is driven at the individual team and enterprise level. You've got to have a vision, because that vision is what keeps everybody on track when obstacles pop up. So having both is important, and you need to stay holistic to that.
I love that. It's so important for us to keep not just what we're doing today, but what we want to be doing going forward at a 3-month, 6-month, 3-year, 5-year plan level in mind. So we're going to come back to that here in just a moment, but let's go ahead and check in with Mike and ask him a couple of questions. Because, you know, when you were introducing yourself, Mike, you said you're in customer enablement and I'm in champion enablement, and I don't think we're the same person. So I guess I'm just wondering, what's the difference between customer enablement and champion enablement?
Well, that's a great question. You know, we have a lot of enablement going on here at ServiceNow, but there are some distinct differences. To start off, you know, champion enablement, what they provide to customers and partners is they provide package messaging and project management roadmaps and templates to allow the adoption and expansion of ServiceNow within an organization. So the templates that you can find, you have, as I'm sure many have explored, if you haven't, I would definitely suggest exploring it, are specific to applications within ServiceNow, so that you know, 90% of the work of the individuals that are driving that adoption or expansion within your organization, it's already been done by champion enablement. So they've gone through and worked on the messaging, but also the project management side, so that you can easily plug things in and really save your time and your resources to really doing the important thing, which is talking to the decision makers and the stakeholders within your organization to share the real advantages and the strengths of ServiceNow, so that it can help to assist with solving problems within your organization. So that's champion enablement. Now, customer enablement, we're based in global support, so we actually focus on training customers as well as internal teams here at ServiceNow about ongoing support practices that we follow within the ServiceNow global support environment. And so we assist with coordinating those trainings, but we also do things that are in the operational space, like coordinating escalations, as well as communicating to our technical support teams when things like, for example, go lives are occurring, or you know, big events may be occurring within our customers. So hopefully that helps paint a little bit of a picture between the differences between champion and customer enablement.
Sure, that makes so much sense. And I was, as everyone knows, I was a customer for a very long time, and every now and then I get this feeling that, like, God, wouldn't it have been great to have all of these resources available when I was a customer? And so I'm so glad that you guys are here today to talk about Swapna. You've been talking about champion enablement as long as anyone. You've been involved forever. And just being able to kind of talk about how we can go from this tactical to strategic view on what we're doing with our implementations and what we're doing with our programs, rather than just what am I doing on a day-to-day basis. So from that perspective, and thinking about all these resources that are available, Swapna, I'm gonna come back to you. So when I was a customer, it was so common that we would implement something and then feel this stagnation within our organization, that we would say, okay, that's done, and there wasn't really a way for us to easily move forward. So how did you overcome that? What were you able to do? What did you take advantage of to be able to move forward as aggressively as you've been able to?
Okay. So what we did is we started thinking about the roadmap day one when we started the implementation for the current project that we had in hand to roll out ServiceNow to one department that was nominated for. So what we did is, when we started the journey, we said that once we go live with ServiceNow for this department, what are we going to do next? Is this going to be only for this department, or is this as a vision for the other departments to onboard as well? And why should they onboard? What's the use case? What's the benefit that the organization and the support teams will realize? So we started thinking along those lines, and we started thinking about it not in the middle or not towards the end of the first step of the roadmap. We started thinking about it day one. So where I'm going with this conversation is, think about the adoption for not only the current team now, day one, but also the team that will be ready for the next phase as well. So what this will help the organization to do is start thinking about and doing some of their homework. The executive sponsors can start thinking about the budget, the resource, because until and unless we have the budget resources allocated for the upcoming project, it's really difficult to talk to the members there. So that's really helped us to build our roadmap in a way that it can be executed rather than going back and forth for the approvals and the budget, right? So that was one. And what we also did is that's on the more program management, but we didn't think only from the program management per se. And we said, okay, let's think about the technical implementation and try and put a spin to it and say, take that as an example. So let me share an example here. So what we did is we reached out to the other departments and said, these are some of the key business use cases we have. For example, how do we manage our escalation process? How do we manage our major incident process? How do we manage our change requests? Do we know what assets we have in the organization? And how do we manage the life cycle? So we took the simple use cases and we went back to the other teams that we have presented and shared how we enable our business process in a very streamlined and automated way using ServiceNow. And we shared the system of record that they currently use today and try to compare. So we are not trying to create a value case that's just by talk, but it's more using the real-time examples that's within the organization so that we all can see the vision. And why is it important? Because our department doesn't work in silo end to end. We interact with the other departments. We all work for one organization, one vision, right? And to achieve that, we all need to talk. So our systems need to talk to each other. And that is one driving factor wherein everyone's trying to come together and work as a team. So those are some of the examples. And something to think about is many organizations don't have a fully allocated resources. That's always a question to say, we don't have all the resources. Can we really do it? Is it possible to do it? And that's where we shared some of the examples to say ServiceNow does not provide just a system of record, but they also provide support to the program team, the project team, so that they can continue the journey and focus on the implementation in their organization than focusing on building the templates and all the details. So we shared how Champions community came together and helped us during our go live, which was really a plus for our organization to see what ServiceNow is providing the customers as a value here, as a service, right? And something else that really helped us is rather than just me being a representative or some of the current users being representative to talk to other departments, we invited the ServiceNow account team, the specialists, the contacts we have in ServiceNow, and received their help to talk to our service owners and the other departments and walked us through the journey. So that this way, it's not just one-way conversation, but getting all the involved members to talk through. So some of the takeaways here, start thinking about it day one, build a vision, show them the value case that we have as a shared vision and not just as my department or your department, but to say we all are working towards one goal and here's how we can accomplish this.
Thank you so much, Swapna. It's so funny. It sounds like we're all talking about the same thing. It's like we planned it or something. I love this idea. I love this strategy at the beginning and making sure that you're planning for the future from day one. And I know that what you're doing, Swapna, really aligns with what John was talking about before. And John and I have had a very interesting conversation about how important strategy is to adoption. And I think it's something that we might that we might not. I'm sorry, Mike's light just went off.
Yeah, energy efficiency at ServiceNow.
We've talked about how important it is to be able to have this. And when you're thinking about adoption, you're always thinking about what are we doing today instead of what are we going to be doing in 6 months. And so, John, I guess as I throw this your direction, and as you listen to what Swapna was just saying that she's done in application, she's actually applied in her organization. Does this strategic planning that you and I have talked about and that you were referring to earlier, does it have any input into users now and does it have any value to them, any impact? Or is it only focused on kind of future users and products?
No, they're not mutually exclusive. What Swapna is talking about is very powerful, and she's very articulate about it. I think what happens is when you get off to a good start, that's what builds momentum for the platform to be used in other areas. So if you were to draw something right now, and at the top you put all your business units and service units, and down the left side you wrote ITSM, you wrote CSM, you wrote PPM, you wrote all the other things that ServiceNow can apply to. And then you look at that matrix and you look where those boxes connect, and you look at your critical success factors in those business units and service units. You have to look at that and say, where are these different solutions that are coming from ServiceNow? Where can they serve, excuse me, our business units and service units? What happens is, and I've been on the board of a public company, so I know this. It doesn't matter whether you're at the board, C-level, you're a director or whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is everyone's afraid of something. Doesn't matter, right? Everyone's afraid of something. So if you think someone's at the C-level and they're not nervous about something, I got news. They are. They're nervous about something. So when you go to the board level, what they want to know is whatever initiative is being driven, that initiative is hitting the mark for today. It's hitting its KPIs or OKRs. It's hitting those measurements. But at the same time, we know where we're going with it so that other things don't start to compete with it at the board or the C-level. Because other priorities will pop in. But if the response to the other priorities, if someone brings something up and the response is, yeah, but Swapna is killing it with ServiceNow, so why would we go do this other thing? Because you've only got so much energy and resources, and someone's going to pop up and go, you're right. We're making a lot of progress and we have a lot of momentum, so we can continue with our ServiceNow vision. I will tell you that we had an opportunity about 90 days ago where if it wasn't for our ability to articulate a vision and what ServiceNow could be for this organization, and a very crisp business case that we put together for everyone that wants one, that worked with us, we would have lost a deal for ServiceNow to a cloud-based CRM provider. Okay, we got that deal because we had a vision of what ServiceNow was, which was beyond CRM. And when we talked about the business case, it was the metrics that you could look at, that you could take to your CFO and hold your head high and say, I've got your answers. Because at some point, the CFO is going to turn around and say, why did we do this? And so you've got to have this story tied together very well. And to Swapna's point, you've got to have the metrics along the way that say, we're succeeding. Because that success allows you to continue to pursue that vision.
Wow, that's certainly a lot for us to have to think about, and as we're those of us who focus a lot of our time and energy on organizational change management and are always thinking about the end user, I think sometimes we have a tendency to say, oh yeah, but just because that's what this leader thinks that we should do doesn't maybe mean it's what we should be doing. We have to focus on the end user. We have to think about this from the perspective of the person who's trying to find it. But there may be a long-term plan, a vision that's in place that we need to, it doesn't mean you have to get in line and just be a duck in a row, but it does mean that you need to be cognizant that these things are going on in the organization and make sure that you're aligning in terms of strategic vision. Your strategic vision for your service portal may may be something that could be diametrically opposed to what's going on within the rest of the organization, who maybe wants to do a service portal for everyone across the organization. If you build one specific to HR, then you're going to have to redesign. So if we're not thinking about those things in advance, then what you end up doing is you have an HR service portal that's released, and then 6 months later you have a brand new one that's released, and now people are overwhelmed by constantly having to change the way they work. So as we talk about adoption and how it relates to being strategically aligned with a vision for an organization and planning for long-term success, which does make things easier on your users, I come back to Mike because I'm wondering, you were talking about support earlier, and we're talking about strategic visions, and we're talking about making sure we're aligned with our own internal leadership and our own internal end users as customers. So what is it that customer enablement is doing that can help with adoption? Help me out here.
Sure. Yeah, well, within global support, we have a number of tools that are there to help with the reality and the operational side of using the software on a daily basis with that vision delivering wonderful service. So as I mentioned before, in customer enablement, we work to assist customers as well as internal teams at ServiceNow, but understanding the impact of downtime is something that's going to be critical for any organization. And one tool that I would suggest using and monitoring on a regular basis would be the real availability dashboard that's found within the service portal. And this is an area where P1 incidents, they're tracked, and also there's a configurable filter so that the customer's admin personnel can track and research where problems may have occurred by viewing the incidents associated with those P1s. So you can not only, we actually have some new features that we introduced about 3 months ago, where you can further customize your search, also export in different formats the information that you get from the real availability dashboard, so you can track down and see where problems were occurring, whether that was associated with any changes done on the customer side, or if it was done maybe with a quarterly patching program, or maybe an upgrade from one release family to another. So that's going to give you a nice baseline as to, the impact and the user experience that, well, your users are experiencing. But another area too is, don't be bashful. Tap into the vast online resources that we have for our customers. It is updated on a regular basis. We have things like the community. Obviously, champion enablement resides within the community, but there are active conversations going on there, and that can really help drive adoption because you have the finger on the pulse of what's going on, and also you're tapping into the larger community, ServiceNow employees, other customers, and then of course vendors are going to be there. And when you come together and you share your ideas, it's exponentially grows the amount that you can take away from those conversations. So I would definitely check into that, as well as looking into things like release notes when either new families are released, or even in the quarterly patching program when we have new patches. Give yourself a moment to read those so that as changes occur, you're not creating an adverse effect for your users. So you don't have to necessarily do a lot of research into any downtime within the real availability dashboard. So I would suggest making that a ritual and more habit. And then of course, when you're going to do a release family, giving yourself a lot of time, a lot of buffer to do your testing, to do your baseline testing, and to also check with stakeholders in a sub-prod environment. I know some of this may seem rudimentary for you, but this is also new to others. So we have plenty of articles that are best known practices, again, within the knowledge base, as well as YouTube videos that are going to guide you very well, not only in standard practice, but what's specific on what's coming up. And then, of course, there are, pardon me, there are organizations that may want a slightly more personalized approach to the operational ins and outs of working with support. We do have support account management programs where SAMs, we call them SAMs, but that's a support account manager, and provides a single point of contact for customers when working with customers, and do a few different things like operational reporting of incidents, problems and corrective action follow-up, as well as quarterly summaries of incident trends and performance analysis. But when it comes to adoption, they can also help with training roadmap and guidance, so that if you're onboarding large numbers of employees, or if you're expanding into other applications within ServiceNow and expanding the usage of ServiceNow, they're going to help you, get you a roadmap, and also put you in touch with the subject matter experts within ServiceNow they're going to give you the best possible outcome. And of course, something we're very proud of here within our global support is that we offer 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365-day support, where when you call in, you're being patched directly to a competent, trained, and experienced technical support engineer. So if you ever have any questions, if it's pertinent, or if you just have a question, we welcome everything. So definitely pick up the phone, even if it's in the middle of the night, and give us a call, and we'll have someone there. So hopefully that helps shed some light on kind of practices to help drive adoption. Definitely preparedness and keeping an eye out for what's on the horizon, and then that daily maintaining of kind of what the real situation is on the ground.
I love this idea of adoption through performance, and it's something that I think we forget, that it doesn't matter what our strategic plan looks like. It doesn't matter what our OCM practices look like if we implement something that doesn't work. And so that's really what I took away from what you were saying, Mike, is that we have to make sure that we're not just, in and then saying, hooray, what's next, right? We have to, sorry, that was very loud.
We have to back that up with, we have our strategic vision,
yes,
which is wonderful, but we want to make sure that on an operational space, we're meeting those targets.
Absolutely. And that's in addition to kind of the tactical side of sending out the emails for organizational change management and for getting an executive sponsor to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. That technical element is something that can be overlooked if you're not careful until the last minute. So I'm gonna come back to you shortly, Mike. I know you touched on a lot of resources to help mitigate those risks, but what would be really great is, at the end we'll come back to more specifically how to reach out to you and your organization.
Great.
So coming back around for the final loop, everybody's excited. Swapna, as we're talking about the high level, and we just talked about yet something else we have to keep in mind, which is our actual technical implementation and making sure it works. I'm sure there were a lot of things that came up on your side that could have prevented you from being able to move forward in this exciting new direction in your organization. So can you share with us some of the challenges that you've experienced, and maybe what it looks like, how you're planning to sustain these new processes and these new initiatives in your organization?
Oh, absolutely. But before moving forward, I want to thank you, Mike, for pointing out about the readiness of the technical support, because even though back of mind, we realize, some of us as a customers, we realize that is a critical place to think about it, but that wasn't in front of my radar on my current project. So I'll make sure that we put that right in the center to think about it. So thank you.
No problem.
It's a good learn there for me today. All right. Okay. So Brett, to share some of the obstacles or challenges that we had recently, or trying to look at some of the risks that we have to take into consideration for the project. So let me take an example that we are currently looking at. When we are doing any change for a technical implementation or any rollout, if they are spaced out in a particular fashion, let's say we are introducing something now, and then something's going to come after 3 months or 4 months, and something after like 3 or 4 months, it's more convenient to plan organization change management when it's spaced out in a particular period of time. What if that particular change is spaced out in a matter of weeks, and it's a big change? It is not a small change. So here's an example. We'll be doing a Jakarta release in a matter of a couple of weeks. And once we do Jakarta upgrade, in a span of 4 weeks, we'll be having 2 more departments that will start using ITSM. And in a matter of +6 weeks, we'll be having few other departments, as well as we'll be expanding it to asset management, CMDB, business services, and other areas. So the list of stakeholders will expand. At the same time, we have to ensure that the teams that are receiving communication are not getting confused and don't feel lost or scared about the change. So it'll be a fun challenge to work through it, we have to be really creative and add some fun so that we can keep up with the momentum. And I'm talking about having only 1.5 resource to drive this as an organization change management. Honestly, I feel a little bit nervous, but at the same time, more confident because we have a strong team, as well as I know champions communities out there to help me in my journey. Those are some of the places that I'm looking at to help me through the journey, and I'm really looking forward to that challenge. It will be really fun to do that. And some of the other areas were, so when we started inviting the other teams and their project got approved to join us with the ServiceNow journey, that spread like a wildfire in the organization, and some of the other departments said, hey, we want to come too. And in this phase itself, because of ABC business justification and budget wasn't approved for that particular team at that point in time. So what we had to do is go back, work with them as one team and have the budget, resources, everything aligned, as well as have one common vision for different departments trying to come on one platform with a similar workflow, similar structure. So that will be one of the projects that we'll be doing in a matter of few weeks. So lean resources, doing the right level of communication, even though they're spaced out in a matter of few weeks, as well as the budget approvals, this executive sponsor approval, some of those areas. And sometimes we come across a scenario wherein the resource who's driving the project, they're not fully dedicated to the project, but they have to manage the operations work too, being on the customer side. So how do we pay attention to operations as well as the project? So something that my team is doing is we prioritize our work on a day-to-day basis as well as on a weekly or a monthly basis to say, okay, this is something we have to complete by this month. This is if we have to achieve that in a month, how do we achieve that on a weekly basis and on a daily basis? So that helps us keep up with the momentum, as well as try and ensure that our outcome is aligned with our management and leadership team's vision. So we have to make sure that we are able to support the operations and the project too. And something that will be really interesting to see from the challenge point of view is ensuring to keep up with the momentum for how we are doing our work. So prioritize, create excitement, have fun at the same time. If we don't have fun, it's really hard to create the fun in the environment too.
I think that's such a fair point that, we ServiceNow nerds on the phone, we have a lot of fun with, talking about ServiceNow products. We have a good time just having our little conversations here and leading up to this conversation about all the exciting things going on. But sometimes it doesn't trickle if we don't put in a lot of effort. And so that's not the biggest takeaway from what you just said, Swapna, but it's so important for us to have a good time and to let everybody know so they can feel that, and that we're trying to make what everybody's doing within their organizations, something that fun, but it can at least, not be a beat down, right? We're trying to make life easier for you. So everything we can do to enable that is for the best. So, as I'm listening to you, Swapna, and I'm listening to you talk about, first of all, we weren't considering the kind of technical implementations, and we have to keep that in mind, right? And, there are all these things that are happening that you have to make sure that you're setting up for specific kinds of architectures, and making sure that what you're building is something that can be extensible, can be shared throughout multiple areas of your organization. So that requires a lot of planning. But I think any of us who've done any sort of technical implementation before, ServiceNow or otherwise, know that not everything goes according to plan. So, and I love these little smiles that I'm seeing. You're like, what? What a surprise. So John, I'm going to hop over to you for a second, because we were talking about long form planning and having a 3-year plan and a 5-year plan, and how important it is to be directly associated with the organizational vision, which is generally something that's a multi-year plan. But I wonder, as these obstacles, these challenges, as it were, come up in your organization, is there a way that we can have those kinds of long form plans, but still be developing something that's organic in terms of strategy rather than something that's a static, multi-year, semi-draconian plan?
Well, yeah, I think that it's sort of like agile development. You know, every quarter you have to move faster than you did years before because the world's changing a little faster. I think that one of the things I wanted to share with everyone here today is that one of the challenges that we all have. I'll give you an acronym first, WHOOP, which is why, objective, obstacle, and planning. So why you want to do something, what's the objective, what's the obstacle, and therefore what's the plan. I think we should always assume there are going to be obstacles and not be surprised by that. If you want to do anything worth doing in life, there are going to be some obstacles. So I think that that's fine. I think that the thing I wanted to share with everyone on this call was that here's some news for many people, I believe, who write a lot about transformation and change. Only about 9% of executives are transformational. Most executives are not transformational. What they did was they learned how to play the rules, and they play the rules better than anyone else, and they get the corner office. That's not transformational. So when you look at it that way, and that comes from studies done by Bain and from Hart Hill Consulting, who interviewed over like 6,500 executives. So, and it has nothing to do with their IQ. It just has to do with their mindset, how they approach things. So you have three segments. You've got the first segment, which is the socializer. You've got self-actualization, and then you've got transformational. The transformational folks that is like the 8 or 9% tend to be more complex thinkers and tend to deliver higher results to their organizations. And those organizations tend to attract complex thinkers. So then when you get to the self-actualization group, which is most of them, they're just trying to move from A to B. So when we go in there and we talk about transforming the enterprise or changing your culture or whatever, we could be blowing a dog whistle for many of these folks. And that's why what Swapna and Mike are talking about is so important. Because if I can't get you to think about this in a way where the future is running you down and you better run faster, then if I can give you examples of success that we're having, then you become more interested. You understand that. A to B, I get that. A to T or U or V or X, Y, Z, I don't get that at all. So I think these things work together and they can work in harmony. It's just that having a vision actually gives you context to what you're doing today. You know where you're going with it. And here's the other thing that I think has been really important from what I've seen. Measure what you're doing and learn how to present that data to the executive team. If you do that and you do it in a simple way that they're going to understand, they will get behind you because they're looking at a lot of reports they don't understand. So just keep these little things in mind. But you know, it's the vision as well as we have to show we know what we're doing, like Swapna is doing right now. We had a client in Boston where they were looking at bringing in ServiceNow, and she was getting a lot of headwinds to that, and especially from the CFO. And then a couple of years later, the CFO keeps coming back to her saying, can you build me this? Can you build me that? So everything has changed because of the early success of ServiceNow. So that's what we're trying to do here, is show early success to build the momentum, but keep that vision in line because that gives us context to what we're doing for the 3 or 4 year term.
Thank you so much. You just tied everything we've been talking about up into a pretty little bow, which is, I appreciate it. You did it so much more eloquently than I could have. Thanks, John. You're the best. So now that we've kind of talked about strategic vision, we've talked about this actual fantastic implementation that's going on over with Swapna, and she's my spirit animal. I want to be you when I grow up. Swapna, you're the best. Now let's just talk about, what do we do from here? And I want everyone to know that you can always reach out to us at champion.enablement@servicenow.com. But I also want to give Mike an opportunity to talk about some of the things that he does in his organization that you can kind of stay up to date on some of those technical best practices we were talking about before for maintaining adoption through performance. So, Mike?
Well, I really appreciate what everybody's been contributing. It's really cool. I'd love to check those reports out about executives and the mindsets that go along with it. I've always heard about that, and now to actually look at the data, man, it's really cool. So yeah, to kind of bring it back and to bring up my point is that, it's great to talk about, okay, go to these areas and search for it, within support to leverage the tools that we have there for our customers. But even better is that we provide a customer support orientation webinar for all of our customers, whether you're new or you're returning, you're a tenured veteran and you just want to get back in and see if there's maybe some new things that we'd like to point out. If you have brand new employees, I'd like to invite you to come and register for our webinar. We do it on the third Wednesday of every month. And we cover the Americas, EMEA and APJ. We're also planning on posting a recording if it does not work with your schedule. And you can also reach out to me directly if you'd like to have something focused for your particular organization. We can do that. It's about 30 to 45 minutes, and we touch on many of the tools in an overview, kind of nothing really in depth. It's not a day-long session, but it's to help start the momentum of discovering the tools that we've all talked about today. So some of the things we do is we provide an overview of the ServiceNow customer support processes and tools that are available to your team to make life easier and to get the most out of ServiceNow. We also teach how to engage with ServiceNow support to obtain assistance. You may or may not know, but things like incidents, escalations can be triggered by our customer. You can also bump up the priority of your initial incident. So if you put in something that it was maybe a P3 or a P4 and you realize this is actually having a much greater impact on our organization and day-to-day events, we need to bump it up to a P2 or P1. You have that power, and we won't question it. So we do talk about some of those things as well as how to go through the basics, like reporting incidents and request other services found within the service catalog, activating plugins and a number of other things, as well as being able to schedule additional training. And then, as we wrap it up, teaching how to leverage all the critical online resources to drive education resolution of issues. And we do plug Champion Enablement, but I think Champion Enablement is a fantastic program that we have. And based on my attendance and knowledge, I think that resonates throughout the community of customers with ServiceNow. So definitely to get to that, here's the plug. If you'd like to go to ServiceNow Community, simply type in Customer Support Orientation Webinar, and you can see the dates that we have offered. We have dates currently up for July, August, and September. And of course, if there are ever any questions, you can reach out to me directly. And my email is mike.hamblin, that's HAMBLIN @servicenow.com. I almost gave you my Gmail, but no, just kidding. Mike.hamblin @servicenow.com. And we look forward to seeing you there and hearing from you. And that's where we can help you out.
Yeah, one last thing to say about that, which is that customer enablement and champion enablement work so closely together that we're actually hosted in the same space. So if you come out to look at content related to customer enablement, it is actually going to take you to a space within champion enablement. So if you're not able to access it, please reach out to us at champion.enablement@servicenow.com and we will provide you access. Or you could just email Mike directly and then he'll let us know and we'll just go through that whole loop. You can go ahead and just email us. Of course, of course. So we're very happy to have customer enablement as part of champion enablement in terms of space. And we are partner organizations in making sure that we can help you accelerate and ensure the sustainable success of your implementation within your organization. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I'm so happy. It's apparently time to turn the lights off. So thank you so much. Thank you so much again. And we will actually see you in August for the dramatic conclusion of the Summer of Champions, at which time we will have the Champion Wars, which we're very excited about. We're going to pit this group of champions up against June's group of champions, and they're going to have a battle, an epic battle, or a very scholastic debate. One or the other. We'll figure it out. We're very excited about that. Thank you so much, Swapna, John, Mike. You guys have been great today. And the lovely lady, apologies for calling you a guy. And thank you so much again. Have a lovely rest of your summer, and I'll see you in August.
Thanks, Britt.
Thank you, Britt.
Take care, everybody. Thanks, Britt.